Hello, and welcome to the Kickstart Your Confidence 21-Day Global Summit. We would like to welcome you and let you know that we will begin shortly. We are live from Victoria, BC, Canada. Let us know where you're attending from in the comments. We also wanted to share our content note with you and remind folks that the information that is provided herein is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This information is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease, but to inform you, the participant, of alternative methods for healing. In all health-related situations, qualified healthcare professionals should always be consulted. Some of our experts are doctors, naturopaths, and other medical professionals. However, you are encouraged to consult your own healthcare professional. In other words, no doctor-patient relationship is informed or suggested at any time during the series. Please also keep in mind that the host finds a lot of information from credible third parties and shares it here in this online forum when it is relevant. By participating in this online event, you acknowledge and agree that the third-party content is not created by the host and is shared with you, the participant, for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. And in no way do they guarantee a pledge or endorsement by the host for you, the participant, to take action on what the third party suggests or recommend on their sites or in their interviews. Please understand that this event provides general information only and is never a substitute for professional and medical advice. Most importantly, please consult your healthcare provider if you suspect a serious health concern. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Your health is your wealth. Don't delay in taking the proper steps in saving your life. By the same token, we are also not providing any financial advice during this series. A summit, online forum, workshop, event is meant to inform. Taking action for your own health, finances, and life is meant to create change. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or read that was shared during the online summit. Our platform provides an open and safer space for the critical and civil exchange of ideas that aren't often talked about when it comes to menopause and aging. Some content in this series will include topics and themes that some viewers may find difficult. We will always do our best to give you a proper heads up to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally beforehand. Before we begin today's conversation, we'd like to inform you that this piece briefly contains potentially sensitive material regarding suicide and depression, and we acknowledge the themes may be difficult for some viewers at this time. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome and enjoy today's show. We're glad to have you. Hello, my name is Green and welcome to the Kickstart Your Confidence Summit for women who are in various stages of their menopause journey. And today we have wonderful Dr. Michelle Gordon, Dr. G, who is going to be sharing some wisdom, some nuggets to hopefully help you manage, prepare for menopause, and hopefully have a happier pause at that one. So briefly, I just want to say that Dr. G was able to run a successful multi-million-dollar surgical practice for 15 years, and it grew to 5 surgeons. I mean, you can probably imagine that there came a lot with that, from headache to heartbreak to enjoyment, but I'm going to let her share a little bit more about that as well. So Dr. G, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive right in and let's just start with that journey of being able to run a multi-million-dollar company and building that. How was that for you and how did that impact your journey?
You know, it's really interesting because I always felt like, I mean, ever since I was a little girl, I had this belief that the only way I could make money was by being a doctor. And so that program ran until I entered medical school at 31 and then continued to run while I was a surgeon. And I grew this practice and I made a lot of money, and I realized that I still wasn't happy and I was supposed to be happy. And I so kind of went on a search for my happiness after that. As I grew the practice, I realized that I disliked leading surgeons quite a bit. And I thought, well, if this isn't my calling, what is? And so I kind of went on a quest to get to know myself better and find out my true identity.
Wow. And on your journey through self-discovery and finding that journey, where did you land?
So what happened for me was that all the questions started around the time menopause started. And menopause was a huge surprise for me. I had some mood swings. I gained a ton of weight. I didn't know what was happening. It was really hard to lose the weight, and I was pissed. I was like, why is it that women have two puberties and no one ever talks about it? And it really pissed me off because I'm a doctor. And so I started looking for information, and I did Google, and in Google, it was all disjointed. I couldn't make any sense of it. Now, there's a lot more people out there talking about menopause now, but at the time I thought, wow, somebody needs to start educating women about menopause. And so I built this company called the Menopause Movement, and I started talking about menopause. But as I was teaching, I realized that I don't care at all about menopause. Really, what I care about is the opportunity menopause gives us for reinvention. And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility what kind of life we have. And so even in the menopause movement curriculum, I would talk a little bit about menopause, but it all really came back to, who do you choose to be? How do you choose to think? And as I did that, I just realized that I was not reaching the right people. And so I switched gears and started talking a lot more about mindset and creating a life you love and habits. And so that's where Launch Your Life got started.
Wow. I think that's just so wonderful that you were able to find your role within something that isn't really talked about much. So can you tell me a little bit more about your journey when you made that shift and you started to speak about like mindset, for example? What impact did that have on you in your journey as you were kind of teaching others and going through that?
Yeah, so I started really, I think the main thing was I started to get to know myself better. And as I delved into some spirituality and discipline and practices like meditation and yoga and things like that, and now that I had time to do it because I left my surgical practice in July of 2020, kind of at the height of the pandemic, I started thinking about what kind of people I wanted to work with and how I could most impact people. Now, I've surveyed over 50,000 women in menopause, and I like to talk about the top two. The number one external problem that women in menopause complain about is, I can't lose weight. I can't shift the weight. The weight just won't come off. Why am I craving food? Why am I always thinking about food? What the heck's going on? I can't stop eating. But then the internal problem, the number one internal problem is, I don't recognize myself anymore. I don't know who I am, and I'm not relating to people the way that I wanted to. And so it all really ties together, because these are the number one kinds of things that are going on. It really is all about how we choose to think, because, I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to lose weight until you change who you are, because weight loss is an inner game. And without really working on habits, because in life you get your habits, without working on the habits that you're exhibiting in your life, you're not going to get what you want in life. And so that's why Launch Your Life is all about creating your ideal life one habit at a time.
Mm. And so when you're working with, one-on-one or in a group setting, when you're looking at habits, how are you able to get folks to reshift their habits or create new habits for that matter? Do you have a special technique or something that you found that works well?
Yeah. So what we do is we talk about what it is we want, and then we kind of deconstruct it. What does that person do every day? What kind of life do they live? Let's say I want to feel better in my life, right? Now, some people can live a kind of a night owl life, right? And not stay up late, get up late in the morning. But that's not really ideal for everyone. So if you're in the habit of staying up till 1 or 2 a.m. and getting up at 8 or 9, and you have interrupted sleep, then what would happen if you shifted your habits to going to bed earlier and getting more sleep? Or what would happen if you really focused on getting the right amount of sleep? Mm-hmm. And studies really show that sleep is vital to weight loss and overall health. And so it really comes down to, okay, I want to improve my sleep. And I'm actually working on this right now, so it's such a great example. What's the one thing I can do that can control that? And I mean, there's a few things when it comes to sleep, and that is cold room, dark room, screens off 30 minutes before bed at least. Having a comfortable bed is really important. No alcohol. Alcohol disrupts your sleep. So those are just a few things, and then a regular sleep and wake time.
It sounds so simple, but yet it's so far removed from culture to just have healthier habits. And one thing that I wanted to touch on, because I think a lot of times we look at, okay, this person is successful and all this good stuff, but what did you define as success then, and how do you define it now?
Back then, I thought success had to do with what was in your bank account. And I really put a lot of value on how much money I was able to make. Not how much money I was able to save, but how much money I was able to make and spend. And if I had the ability to go back and do it again, I would not have done a lot of the spending that I did, and I would have saved 20 times as much. That's one lesson that I really learned. But the other thing was that when you make more money, it just kind of amplifies who you really are. And I realized that I wasn't liking who I was, and I wasn't happy. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? And as I moved on in the surgical practice, I got really depressed, and I actually contemplated suicide. And I was like, this is not going to happen to me. And a few months after that, one of the surgeons who was working for me actually did die by suicide because of some things that were happening in his personal life, not because of the job. But it was such a wake-up call for me. I was like, I got to get out of this job. And as I did the research after he passed away, I realized that doctors have the highest suicide rate in America. So I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And there are other ways to make money than being a doctor. And so I had to overcome that belief, which was ingrained in me since I was 5. And that was hard. But at the end of the day, what you think about expands, and the beliefs that you create in your childhood don't have to stay with you forever, but they're hard to uncover. And that's why it's good to have somebody to help you.
Thank you for sharing that, and I know that there's at least one person that needed to hear that message, because I feel like especially as women, we're told what we should do and how to do it. And by this age, you need to be doing X, Y, Z. It's very like a blueprint, but yet we're all individuals. And so I think what you just hit on is something so courageous, and it's also so welcomed, especially right now as we're moving into this new shifting economy and things are all over the place. And so when you made that shift, when you said, okay, enough is enough, this isn't sustainable, this life isn't sustainable for me, and you moved from maybe a little bit of self-loathing, the depression, what was it really that was like, okay, this is what I need to do to shift? This is the thing. Was there something in particular?
There was, at the end of 2018, I went on a yacht cruise in the Caribbean, right? And this is on like a small boat. We were, wherever people go to watch the fireworks. I can't remember the name of the island. But the thing that stands out the most for me during that trip was every time I looked in the mirror, I said, I hate you to myself. And I had this epiphany, and it was really about getting myself to do something. And the epiphany was around, if I were talking to someone else, how motivated would they be to make any changes if all I said was, I hate you. I hate your body. I hate you. I hate what you look like. And it was at that point that I realized that I was never going to make a change. I wasn't going to be able to lose the weight I wanted to lose, or, sculpt my body the way I wanted to. I wasn't going to be able to get myself to exercise, all those things, if I was motivated by self-loathing. And what I decided to do was begin to love myself. And in doing that, not only did I become a different person, I was able to work on the habits. And, throughout the few years after menopause, I lost about 50 pounds. Menopause packed on 50, 60, 70 pounds. I can't remember how much, but it was a lot. And I was really in a bad way. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't know who I was. And I had to kind of recreate my identity. And not only did I have to recreate my identity in 2018 when I was still working as a surgeon, but when I stopped being a surgeon, what I did was I threw myself into this online menopause movement business. and I created a job for myself, and I got burned out and I was unhappy. And I realized that this isn't what I want to do either. And so I completely closed everything down and thought, what actually do I want to do? And that's when I started focusing on habit and behavior change.
You know, it's every time we talk, I feel like there's just something that I come away with that makes me feel like there is purpose in this world for all of us if we can just have the right person speak into us. And, you know, and you mentioned that, you know, having the importance of having someone to support you. So, did you find your own mentorship or your own coach while you were coaching, or you just kind of self-discovered and then assimilated the information?
I mean, I believe very strongly in coaching, and I've spent a lot of money on coaching. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching, and it's changed my life. I believe very, very strongly in coaching. Now, are there people out there who will take your money and not help you? Yes. There are people who are unethical, but at the same time, every time I hire a coach, I learn something. It's either how to do it or how not to do it. And I used to tell my surgical residents the exact same thing. You go into the operating room, you either learn how to do something or how not to do something, but you're always going to learn every time you go in. And it's the same. I took it with the same sort of kind of attitude that, you know, if I don't like what this person's teaching me and it doesn't resonate with me, even though it did when I paid, that's okay. I'm going to learn something and it's fine. And so that way I don't have buyer's remorse. I don't feel bad. I just learned how not to do some things. And one thing I did learn is that I do not like bro marketing.
Mm.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who will take your money and then throw you into a Facebook group and won't really help you. And so it's really important that you vet your coaches, especially your business coaches. Without question, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to build an online business, there are a lot of real shady folks out there. And so, you know, it's really important to not just look at their success stories, but also look at the mediocre stories as well.
I think you hit on a good point because I know, you know, I'm in the digital marketing space, but I've always been a seeker of knowledge and coaching and mentorship. And, you know, I've gotten burned a few times, and and I think this ties back into this menopause, the movement, and also just the journeys that we have. There are so many conflicting stories. There's a lot of noise. There's, quite frankly, a lot of BS out there. And then trying to navigate, okay, what's right for me, what's not right for me. So what would you say to someone who is maybe managing or preparing for their stage of menopause, you know, with all this stuff in the world and you don't know whom to trust? How do you vet properly so that you maybe have a better chance of winning?
I think that it's really important to pay attention to what people say about them. And the other thing is to look at the types of things they're saying. There is a lot of predatory marketing out there towards menopausal women. A lot has to do with the fact that we don't feel good about our bodies. And then there's a lot of people out there who say that they can balance your hormones. And I'm here to tell you that you cannot balance your hormones in menopause. That is a myth. Menopause is the end of your hormones. It's the end of your ability to create life inside of your uterus, and you're going to naturally lose your hormones. For some women, the loss of estrogen especially can cause some mental health problems. And at that point, then you need to see a doctor, an endocrinologist, somebody who's a hormone specialist to help you. But again, the recommendation with hormone replacement, specifically in menopause, is start early as soon as symptoms appear and only for 5 years. And so you still have to learn how to manage your life and yourself and your emotions without any hormonal support. And that's where somebody like me comes in, somebody, you know, where I can help and show you how to manage your thoughts and your emotions and love yourself more.
See, and you know, why aren't we being told these things, right? Because at the end of the day, some people are motivated by impact or they're motivated by money. And I love money. Trust me, I get it. I love money.
Money's awesome.
It's awesome. It's great. You know, it's great. However, I really turned my heart over and when I realized, okay, I'm not really motivated by money. I love it, but I'm really motivated by the impact. You know, how am I showing up? How am I changing lives? And it seems like that is very much at your core, who you are. Is that safe to say yes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm much more concerned. I mean, I haven't made a lot of money doing this. compared to what I was making as a surgeon, it's like, less than 10% per year. I'm still growing and I'm learning. I mean, this is learning a whole new skill set, right? It took me 15 years to learn how to be a surgeon, another 7 to feel comfortable doing it. It takes time to learn a new skill, and I'm okay with that. But, at the end of the day, the fact that you have dietitians and personal trainers saying, oh, I can balance your hormones, or I can heal your thyroid. I mean, it's infuriating to me because it's just predatory marketing and it's not possible.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and again, there's probably going to be one person that's going to be able to take that away and keep that in their back pocket, as we're moving along. So I want to just briefly touch about your podcast, share some, maybe some insight or some perspective around how that had really helped you, like in your healing stages of, when you had like this debilitating menopause experience, but then, how did that help you heal in any way?
Well, it was a really nice, so the first part, I don't know, the first 2.5 years of the podcast was all about menopause. And then the last few episodes, maybe the last 15 episodes, have been more about lifestyle change and the reinvention in midlife. And then the last 7 episodes are a memoir that I've kind of stopped doing because it was hard to do the first bit. There's a lot of trauma in the first part of my life. And so if you want to know me a little bit better, go and listen to the last 7 episodes of the Launch Your Life podcast at launchyourlifepodcast.com. But if you want to know about menopause, there's 160 some odd episodes that are really menopause focused, menopause and mindset, both. But there's a whole set of podcasts just on supplements or on sexuality, a lot of things that people don't talk about. And so that's why I think that that's probably the best free gift I can give. And if you really like me, you can sign up for my email list right there at the podcast website at launchyourlifepodcast.com.
launchyourlifepodcast.com. Thank you for that. I think that's a great segue because, when we find people that we resonate with, sometimes it's hard to reach them again. Yeah. But I feel like you've been very approachable, you're accessible. And is that part of your reinvention of self, being more accessible? Or is that just like default of who you are by nature?
No, it's really funny. When I started on this whole self-discovery process and journey, for me, one of the things I said was I want to be less prickly because I tended to be very reactionary. And in doing so, I alienated a lot of people. And that's what I learned. That's how my mom was. And so I've taken a lot of time to settle down and just watch and listen and not be so reactionary. And that's been quite helpful because I've been able to make friends and talk to people. And you may think that I'm an extrovert because I'm okay, and I'm smiling a lot, but it's, I'm not, I'm really kind of an introvert. And so I love the pandemic. I got to sit in my basement in front of a camera. It was great. But I think that for me, it's been such a journey, and it's almost like I cracked out of a shell. I mean, I had quite a shell of trauma, and just kind of understanding that no one's responsible for my reactions to my trauma but me. And then as I learned that, and as I was able to kind of step out of having the trauma be my identification, then I was able to really get to know myself better and then subsequently try to help more people.
I love that, and just as an aside, everyone thinks of myself as an extrovert because I'm in the spotlight, whatever. But the pandemic, I mean, they were like, "You're doing so great." I was just having fun inside, like not talking, So I'm glad. I appreciate you for representing the introvertedness in all of us because I had a great time. So I appreciate that. So I feel like I just want to ask you so many questions, but if there was one like juicy takeaway from this, if you were just talking to anyone, any age group in this spectrum, and you just wanted to say, if there was one thing that I could just share, and if you heard nothing else, this is what my message is to you, Do you have something that you would
I
think that
do.
would be?
I definitely do. And that is, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You are worthy now. You were worthy then. You'll be worthy in the future. You don't have to do anything else but be who you are.
I think especially when we go through our stages of menopause, we're told that, to be ashamed, right? And that we are broken and that there's something to fix, but it's just a natural progression of life, right? It's a rites of passage.
Privilege of a long life.
Yeah.
That's menopause is the privilege of a long life. We're all going to go through it. It's awesome. It's awesome because we're still alive.
And so just briefly on that, when you say, it's awesome, how did you get there? How did you get there? I mean, truly to this place of like, has it just been building up your own habits?
It's been building my habits, but it's also, I mean, look, if you think about the way that the patriarchy talks about women, right? We have to look a certain way. We have to be a certain size. We have to, the media, the way the media portrays people and body shames anyone who's carrying extra weight. I mean, there's just a lot of problems. And not only that, but then society, and in my generation, especially, women were raised to be seen and not heard like children, to not have a voice, to not be smart, to always be serving, to be a sexual object. So there's a lot of stuff there, right? Because of institutional patriarchy. And so it's almost like as we grow up, we start thinking we're less and less and less, but when we're born, we're completely worthy, completely worthy. And life I mean, listen, I had a baby and my body was never the same. I was never able to lose all that weight. And I used to be jealous of the people who were able to do that. But then I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter. I created a life. That's amazing. Right. And if I don't love myself now, when, if I wait for something else, some event to happen where I'm going to love myself, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to do the things I need to do to start to love myself now. And if I can just build a foundation of habits, that's what's going to take me to the next level. That's what's going to help me to achieve my dreams. And that's what we work on in Launch Your Life. It's just like one habit at a time that you choose.
And it seems like because of that, you've been able to bounce back in such a beautiful way. And it seems like you're going to be able to help so many others on your journey to continue to bounce back and just be a little bit more resilient. And I just think that's commendable. So thank you for sharing your journey so that other people can continue on and theirs in a more joyful way, more fulfilled way.
Yeah. I mean, there's one more thing I'd like to say, and that is that, like I said, I've surveyed over 50,000 women in menopause, right? And number one problem is I want to lose weight. Number two, I don't recognize myself. And what I've done, because I don't believe in diets. I don't believe in diets at all. I think what happens when you have a diet is you don't really change your lifestyle. When you don't change your lifestyle, you go back to what you're used to because the brain likes to think the same things all the time. And so that's why we always go back to what we've always done. And so what I have is I have a product called the 28-day Mental Belly Challenge. And what you do is you just work on one habit a week. And it may seem small, but these things have lasting change, and you can actually make lasting change with support. And that's what I love about it.
Amazing. Well, I mean, like I said, I feel like I could just go on and just continue and just picking your brain. And it's a little bit selfish because I'm like, I find you so fascinating and I love your perspectives. But is there anything as we wrap this up that you would like to share the audience to know so that way we make sure we get everything in there so there's nothing that's missed?
Yeah. So if you want to join the challenge, just go to menopausemovement.com/challenge and you can sign up there. It's not free because people who pay attention.
I mean, you take that one to the bank. But I think what I love about it is that it's not the price of the investment; it's the value of what you're going to receive. And right now, I feel like, and you talked about this. There's a lot of as I call like empty marketing, where the shrink wrap, you take it off, and then you're like, oh, well, that's it. or there's no support, there's no checking in, there's you just you feel a little bit more frazzled than you did when you first purchased it, and then buyer's remorse comes in, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what I can just share with the audience is that you have choices. You can choose to go with the shiny object, or you can go with something that's maybe not as shiny but that has the most value, and that's actually going to do something for you, and that's going to give you perspectives that won't be sold to you but will really be shared with you because of care. And so, Dr. G, I really appreciate you for who you are. I mean, there's just so much that we could talk about. I mean, just like, martial arts and like children in Africa, like like you're commendable, but they only have so much time. But please make sure that you check out all of her links and sign up for the challenge. Get the podcast, because when you stay connected to the right source of information, that's when your competence builds up, and that's when your confidence can flourish.
Definitely.
So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And this has been Kickstart Your Confidence. And thank you so much to Dr. Michelle Gordon.